Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jay Nichols at Child Care Aware of America. I am the Director of Federal Policy and Governmental Affairs, and we are going to get underway here. And just to double check, Sarah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, thanks. That's Sarah Barron from the Center for American Progress, and who will be leading the vast majority of this presentation, and on what CAP is currently involved in. So before we begin, this is just want to remind everyone that this is our second webinar in a series of Child Care Works events between now and through the election. We are moving forward. We're going to have a number of other webinars as well as other events, and we really appreciate all of you taking time from your schedules to participate with us today. Again, I am actually filling in for Michelle McCready and Desiree Timms, who are the primary contacts for the Child Care Works movement. So I want to present with you their contact information, and so if you have any specific questions you'd like to ask them, please feel free to reach out to them, or if you have any feel free to reach out to me as well if you have any policy questions. Moving along, before we begin, I wanted to just take this brief opportunity to welcome and thank Sarah Barron from the Center for American Progress for joining us today for today's presentation, and she will actually just momentarily take it from here for the rest of the hour so that we have for this discussion. And Sarah, I actually before we get going, if you wouldn't mind just spending a few moments to introduce yourself to our audience, on the phone listening in today, and then when you're ready to begin your presentation, please feel free to let me know.
Great. Well, thanks so much to Child Care Aware and to you, Jay, and to Michelle and Desiree for even inviting me to speak. I'm so excited to talk to you all, and thanks for joining. I have been at the Center for American Progress and Center for American Progress Action Fund for approaching 4 years now, mostly doing, you know, kind of the intersection of advocacy and policy around economic security issues and issues affecting working families. And since really this past October, I've been primarily, or really just, focused on childcare and early learning. And so right now I manage our childcare and pre-K campaign here at CAP. And, you know, we realized, especially, you know, ahead of 2016, what an amazing opportunity we had with the election to really create momentum and elevate the demand for solutions for childcare and early learning. And so that's really why we started the advocacy campaign, and that's what I focus on here. So please let me know afterwards if you have any questions, if you want any resources afterwards. I'm just really excited to talk to you all today. So
thank you, Sarah, for that. And before we begin, I just wanted to briefly mention, because we tend to get these questions quite often. For those on the phone, yes, we are recording this presentation today, and we will have it up on our website shortly afterwards. And as always, I just sent a note. If you look on your screens, you'll notice there's a chat feature at that chat box. We encourage everyone to ask questions, and if you have any, please feel free to direct them towards me via the chat feature, and I'll be sure to work with Sarah. Sarah and I work together on answering them. So I just want to briefly point that out, and Sarah, feel free to take it away.
Great. So I guess we can just go to the next slide. So just really quickly to go over just what I'm going to talk about today. One, you know, go into a little bit on kind of the opportunity we have right now, particularly in the 2016 election cycle. Talk about, you know, messages that we found to be effective in really elevating the problem and educating the public about, you know, why we need major new solutions for childcare. Ideas and ways to create momentum how to demonstrate demand, and then specifically around these debates in the upcoming weeks, right, taking action and standing with families and then taking any questions. So that's what's on tap for the next 25 minutes or so. You can go to the next slide. So as I was saying earlier, I don't think that children and families have been at the forefront of a national election cycle the way they have been this year. And I think, right, that has to do with a lot of things. I think that has to do with our candidates, but I also think it has to do with just kind of the national narrative around families, particularly working women, and really kind of the fact that our policies don't really match up with the realities of today's families, right, where we know that both parents often need to work, where we know that, children have to be somewhere and that these are these critical years where they need, high quality early learning, where they need to be put on the same level playing field as their peers. And so really 2016, more so than I think ever, has been a year where kids and families are at the forefront. This is the first time ever, right, both major party candidates have not only been talking about families and kids, but have as of especially yesterday, actual child care plans, specific policy proposals to address our child care crisis. And, we can debate on another time, the merit of both of those plans, but even the fact that they both clearly have felt the demand and the need to address what they'll do around child care is a really big idea, a really big moment, and we need to take advantage of that. And really the debates are the perfect time to do that, right? All eyes are on them. We're in the final stretch. They're really trying to each reach out to, as many constituencies as possible. And really the debate, especially in this election, which has been certainly unique, it's a policy discussion. And that's really what we want to be having around childcare. So it's this kind of perfect storm, perfect moment to really put childcare on the map, especially as we gear up for the debates, which start on September 26th. You can go to the next slide. So I think right before we get to actually, what are some tactics we can use during the debate, I think we want to get to the fact, right, that we're still in the phase of the need to educate the public about the child care crisis to begin with. I think, this has certainly changed, and I mean, even in the last 12 months improved, but I think there are a lot of people who think, right, child care is maybe a woman's issue or it's a kid's issue. Or, how does it impact me? I don't have young children. Or if you do have young children, right, you think it's just something you're facing. It's an individual problem, not a larger societal challenge. And so really, particularly in these next couple of weeks and leading up to the debates, I'm doing all that we can, right, to just educate the public, to elevate the fact, right, that we have a problem that we need to fix. And so, some of these messaging points I've included in the PowerPoint, and, we'll send to you in some resources afterwards, but really is what we try to harp on, right, is that access to high-quality, affordable childcare is out of reach for millions of working families, which is forcing families to make impossible choices between their paycheck or their child's care, right? We know that families are paying, up to a third of their income on childcare, and so parents are having that tough discussion of, does it make sense for me to keep staying in the workforce and then paying out so much of our income, or does it make sense for me to stay at home? And oftentimes, families don't even have that choice. It's not a luxury. It's something they can choose. And I think we can go to the next slide. So the message frame that we've been using at CAP, and we found to be, pretty effective, right, is driving home this idea that this is a problem for everyone, right? This is a crisis for kids, it's a crisis for families, it's certainly a crisis for workers, and it's a crisis for our economy. And so when we're kind of attacking and lifting up the need for a major plan and a major solution and holding folks accountable, really driving home the fact that this is an everyone issue. It's not, for women or just for kids or any of that. And so these kind of 3 bullets are really how we try to convey that, right? That we know kids are our country's future. both our workforce and our innovators. And we know that high quality early education impacts them and changes the trajectory for the rest of their life. In terms of brain development, in terms of the likelihood to graduate from high school, likelihood to become pregnant as a teen, to enter the criminal justice system. We know that, 0 to 5 impacts kids for the rest of their lives. Working families are being squeezed and need affordable, high-quality childcare and pre-K to make ends meet. And this gets back at that kind of choice and dilemma and struggle that I was talking about on the previous slide, right? That ultimately parents have to go to work, especially, in 2016, most families need 2 incomes to just make it all work. And so at the end of the day, this is if we want parents to stay in the workforce, if we want really to continue to have a workforce that has children, they have to have somewhere to put their kids that's safe and that's also, high quality educational. And then third, right, high quality affordable childcare and pre-K levels the playing field and boosts the economy, benefiting everyone. There have been so many studies done on, even if you just close the school readiness gap, the increase in GDP over time, the fact that, you're not going to have workers leaving the workforce because they're staying home with their kids. There are so many long-term, both immediate and long-term economic impacts to this that we also, really need to be talking about it as an economic issue as well. Go to the next slide. So these are just some, a more aesthetically pleasing way to present some of these statistics. And I think they're, things you all know, and certainly, we use Child Care Aware for some of these statistics, right? We know that in all 50 states, child care costs more than rent. We know that in 28 states and DC, it costs more than public 4-year tuition. The point about this workforce that's has young children, right? 65% of American kids under age 6 have both parents in the workforce. And then on the flip side of that, right, we know that 64% of working mothers have children under 6 and are in the workforce. So just really driving home that necessity. And then, of course, the statistic that, is mentioned all the time, right, that the vast majority of brain development is happening before age 5, and that's really where we need to be investing. Next slide. So creating momentum, and especially this is really the perfect time ahead of these debates, right, is that now, I think public education, talking to people about the crisis, informing folks about the crisis is kind of step 1 and has to be ongoing, but then also trying to create a drumbeat, particularly, ahead of a major action like a debate. So ways to do this particularly are social media channels, which I know Child Care Aware does a lot with, but some of those graphics I showed you, putting some of these messages and statistics into tweets, into Facebook posts. Other great ways to also create momentum and start to create a drumbeat are, placing op-eds or letters to the editor in local papers. I think that that sometimes sounds a little daunting to someone, particularly if, you're a mom or a teacher or, run a center, you have your hands full all day. And then the idea of, in your spare time writing a letter to the editor, but really that's only, 100 to 200 words. Every local paper is hungry for, content and letters to the editor, and people read their local papers more than they read, right, the big publications. And that really makes all the difference, right? Talking about if you don't have high quality childcare, why you need it, talking about if you do, what that's meant for your family, what that's meant for your children. Other examples with really low, that are also kind of a lower bar lift, are blog posts. Particularly, I put here Medium and Huffington Post are both publications that, you can submit on no matter what. You can create your own account and you can post kind of your thoughts. And again, in some of the resources we're going to send to you after have some sample text and language for you to use, so you don't have to start from scratch if you don't want to. But really, I think we found some of the best ways to create momentum around this need, around this problem, is using state and local level statistics and stories, right? I think, folks like me and DC can talk on and on and on about numbers and about what the nation is facing and kind of with these broader strokes, but at the end of the day, it's the people that are actually being impacted. It's you and folks that are also kind of doing this work on the state level and the local level that have honestly far more important voices to get get this across. And so I included here a link to a 50-state map on the Within Reach campaign site, which is our child care campaign here at CAP. So you can see, right, how unaffordable childcare is in your state, or also, you know, the often low percentage of kids enrolled in public pre-K. And I think some of the most persuasive ways to do, you know, social media or to do letters to the editor or blog posts is to include those state and local level statistics as well. You can go to the next slide. And that brings us to demonstrating demand. I think that everything I talked about is a way to demonstrate demand, but I think we're also fortunate in that this issue is popular. And I think that we shouldn't be shy about conveying that. You know, there's been so much polling done on both sides of the aisle, young, old, men, women, Republicans, Democrats, independents, people of color, and so forth. And people want a solution for this. They want a solution for childcare, for early learning. They see that folks are struggling, and they want something big to be done about it. This is just one example of a poll from the Make It Work campaign, right? 75% of voters want affordable childcare options available nationally, including majorities of every political party. I think that these are really powerful, and there's been other polling like this. I think that I think we're fortunate in that this issue shouldn't be that polarizing, and I know it can certainly be polarizing when you're talking about, you know, how are you getting funding, needing more, and upping the ante. But I think before even getting to those details, at the end of the day, we should be driving home the message that this is wanted. Every lawmaker's constituents want a solution, and they want something to be done at the national level. And particularly in an election season with these debates coming up, right, voters want this, and it's something that they're thinking about when they go to the ballot box. And so kind of connecting the policy to the electoral outcomes is an amazing way to demonstrate demand. So including kind of these polling numbers, or including what you're hearing from your friends and neighbors in some of that momentum building in the social media, in the blog posts, in the Facebook posts, I think that's really powerful. Next slide. This is another example. This is a poll from the First 5 Years Fund, who is especially bipartisan, right? Overwhelming support for a federal plan that helps state and local communities better provide better access to quality early childhood education. And this poll also had, you know, other questions about, would you be okay increasing funding to do this? And there's still overwhelming support. 85% of Hispanics, 79% of suburban women, 65% of moderate or liberal Republicans, and 58% of Republican women. Again, it's not hard to understand why there's such broad appeal, right? Again, like we said, this is an everyone issue. Every family is struggling with this. Next slide. So now comes to the more direct tactics to take action. So I'm going to, in the next couple of slides, talk about a really big petition that we, the Center for American Progress, Child Care Aware, and 10 other organizations launched particularly ahead of these debates to kind of bring together everything I've talked about, bring together the opportunity, bring together the need to educate folks and elevate the problem, the crisis, and then create momentum and show demand ahead of these kind of crucial points in time in these next couple of months before November. Next slide. So before we kind of get into the more details of the petition and other tactics during debates, I just want to remind everyone of what the dates are. They're coming very quickly, which I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited about this election being over, so that's good. But the end of this month, the 26th, is the first debate. It's at Hofstra in New York. On October 4th, we've got the VP debate, which is in Farmville, Virginia. October 9th, we're at Wash U for the second presidential debate, and the final presidential debate is October 19th in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so that's only about a little over 2 weeks before Election Day, that last debate. So really, each one of these debates is, you know, hard. It's kind of putting the pedal to the metal ahead of Election Day. Next slide. So I'm going to get a little bit more into the petition now that I was talking about, because I think it's, again, a perfect combination of all of these things, and we're going to send you this toolkit that has all of this so you can take action, sign the petition, promote it to your networks. So like I was saying, ahead of this first debate on the 26th, 12 organizations, including CAP and Child Care Aware, have joined together to promote a petition that demands that both major presidential candidates stand with families by supporting affordable, accessible, high-quality child care and pre-K for all. And that's the link to the petition. You can ideally sign it right now as you're listening to this webinar. It only takes a couple of seconds. But really what we're trying to do with this is it's a totally nonpartisan way, right, to make a demand of the major candidates. And I think also we want to make this demand up and down the ticket, not just for the presidential candidates, but obviously that's where a lot of the focus is right now. But also making the idea of standing with families and supporting child care and pre-K synonymous. I think that's really important, right? I think at the end of the day, if a candidate is saying they stand with low-income families, they stand with the middle class, that means that they have to stand with child care and pre-K. There isn't, we shouldn't let there be any room between those two things. Next slide. So various ways to plug in with this. One is obviously to sign the petition today. Two is to share the petition. And then what you'll see, we're providing you with a lot of sample language, talking points, questions, some of the letters to the editor I was talking about, sample graphics, tweets, and so forth, to be able to push this out to your listservs, your network, your centers, really anyone who you think is, again, you know, hoping to hear about the robust plans from these candidates in these upcoming debates. In the toolkit, there's also a kind of a timeline for taking action. So I put here educate, escalate, and then go time, which kind of reflects what we've been talking about. That really each of these weeks, which again is not too many leading up to the 26th, you know, engaging on Twitter, engaging on Facebook, hopefully, you know, increasing your activity as we head into kind of game day, which is the 26th. I should also say that, let's say you're not so into the petition itself, but you like some of these messages or you like some of the resources in the toolkit, feel free to use those. You know, this is a way to kind of get everyone on the same page and have the same ask, but really anything to do with elevating the issue around the debates is going to be beneficial for making progress. Next slide. These are just some of the sample tweets, and again, we're going to send these to you, but along the lines of, can be super simple, right? Sign the petition, working families need affordable, quality childcare and pre-K. High quality childcare and pre-K are out of reach. We need major solutions. You know, act now can really be a couple of words. You know, you could even, these tweets don't acknowledge specifically the debate, but I think you can say, right, countdown till election day or countdown till this debate. Like, I want to hear real solutions. I want to hear their plans. You can't stand with families if you don't stick for, you know, if you don't prioritize childcare, so on and so on. So those are just a couple of ideas to get your mind going a little bit. Next slide. So that is kind of the conclusion on my end. Of course, we're going to take questions, and that's my email. And please to contact me really about anything. I would love to be helpful in any way I can.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That was fantastic. And again, as Sarah referred to earlier, there is their petition and toolkit. We will be sharing it with everyone participating in today's call later on today. In addition, I would also like to bring it, just once again mention the Within Reach campaign. Here it's got a lot more information relevant to what we're all discussing today. And as always, sorry, 1 second. As always, please visit the Child Care Works. Oops, wrong one. Please visit our webpage, childcareworks.org. Just today we've included new information on both presidential candidates' child care proposals as well as an upcoming take action going out to all of you very shortly. So once again, if anyone has any questions, please utilize please utilize the chat feature you see on your screen. And right now, I don't, Sarah, right now no one has actually asked a question, but I don't want to just, I would like to give people the opportunity to think of one to ask and don't want to end the conversation right now. So I guess I'll throw you the first one. So,
okay.
And my question really is centered, it's centered around, and you mentioned this in your presentation around affordability. And there have been, in addition to proposals at the presidential level, there also have been some ideas floated in Congress. And do you think that, I guess the question is, what do you view as much more of a, what kind of a plan do you think it seems much more workable? Is it through the tax code, or is it through child care tax credits, or is it through infrastructure investment? What do you view as some more effective way?
I mean, that's kind of the question of the day, and I should preface my answer by saying I am an advocacy person and not a policy person, and we do have a pretty robust, specifically early childhood policy team. So, I mean, I think in our opinion right now, I think that letting 1,000 flowers bloom is good in terms of building momentum for the need for a major solution, right? There are a couple of bills and things that have been introduced in Congress. Obviously, both presidential candidates now have plans. I think, I mean, so the Center for American Progress put out a proposal for kind of a major child care overhaul late last year, and it is a tax credit proposal. The idea being that it's an advanced refundable monthly tax credit that goes straight to providers that's tied to quality, to incentivize quality. You know, there have been a lot of other proposals that have been put out as well, not dissimilar. You know, Make It Work, the Make It Work campaign, which I referenced earlier with the poll, has put out also a proposal that is similar in a way, but it's a subsidy instead of a tax credit, a monthly subsidy to afford care. In both plans, you know, we advocate for increasing wages for child care workers to increase quality, and for, you know, other reasons, such as folks being able to live and work full time. But I think the way we foresee it to be the most feasible, it is a tax credit. That being said, I think we all know the realities of Washington. I think that you referenced infrastructure. I think there's a lot of momentum right now to include, you know, a big child care agenda or new funding in an infrastructure bill. I think that's really smart, and I think a lot of folks are kind of rallying around that. I will say, I think really at the end of the day, what we care about the most is that, you know, particularly that it's high quality, accessible, and affordable. I know there's a lot of focus on affordability, which is super important. I also think amongst the most persuasive of the arguments, I think it gets folks on the hook, right? When you say, you know, childcare costs more than rent in your state or more than college, I think that's really persuasive. But I do think it's important to make sure that we're driving home the message is the need for quality and accessibility and flexibility. So I think really our main goal, ultimately the end of all of this, hopefully, that we have like a major overall. I think our feeling is right now what we have currently just isn't going to cut it, no matter how many times we try to, you know, get more funding, or how many times we reauthorize the current tax credits and so forth. I think we want something bigger and better, and not kind of still fighting over the last final crumbs, which we've seemed to have been for the last couple of years.
No, thank you for that answer. And I think for me personally, and I think for a lot of us here at the Child Care of America, that it seems that the issue of child care is, you know, and you kind of outlined it in the presentation, and I appreciate you pointing out the presidential and vice presidential debates. Child care really has become it's part of our national conversation, and I think there's a very, very strong likelihood that in both, at least one of the presidential debates and possibly even the vice presidential one, that it will be discussed. So looking forward to that. And I think in 2012 we may have briefly touched on it, but I think in from my recollection, I can't, I don't think child care is, access to child care, to quality child care has been really at the forefront of the conversation in our lifetimes. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's very, very encouraging to see an issue like this seems to be a priority in both for not only both candidates, but for a lot of folks involved in child care policy nationwide. So
yeah. I think also, if I can make one last plug, I think obviously, the focus
sure.
of today's webinar was utilizing these debates as like moments and ways to engage, and I think that that's so critical. I think, right, the reason that this is all so exciting and that we want to make as much kind of hay out of this issue as possible before Election Day, right, is to best set us up for major progress in 2017, no matter who the president is and no matter who controls Congress and so on. And so I think while it will be a relief November 9th to kind of be done with this crazy situation, in many ways, right, that's where some of the hardest work begins, because then we have to really hold people accountable. It can't just be, right, every 4 years or every 2 years that, folks are talking about this. And I think that's will be among the hardest work to do. And I know we're at CAP trying to figure out how best to do that. I know you guys are as well. And so we're excited to work with all of you to figure that out.
And we're excited to work with you as well. So, Sarah, again, thank you very much for your time. We don't appear to have any other questions being asked. So, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you again, Sarah, and to all of you on the phone. Thank you for participating in today's webinar. Again, this is being recorded and it will be posted just shortly on our website. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or reach out to Sarah. And we will be sharing the Center for American Progress Toolkit with everybody very shortly. So again, Sarah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone else on the phone. And hope you have a great rest of your week. And we will. Our next webinar is currently Child Care Works webinar is scheduled for 2 weeks from today at the same time. And we will talk to all of you then. Okay, have a great day, everyone.